Thank you very much, Minister Vaz. And so we are going to close out this briefing with our last presentation, and then we'll take questions, but it will be from Minister McKenzie, the Deputy Chair of our National Disaster Risk Management Council. And he has been the one that's coordinating everything, and so he'll have some very important updates for the country. Thank you. Thank you, Minister.
Thank you, Minister, colleague, Minister Evan, officials from ODPEM and members of appointed minister, officials from ODPEM, members of the media, Jamaica, good afternoon. First of all, I'd like to advise the country that we have activated all shelters across Jamaica. So shelters are fully activated, and persons who wants to go to the shelters, they can do so because the shelters have been activated. There are 2 areas of concern I want to address quickly. One, I spoke yesterday about the number of cranes, construction cranes, that are left hanging across the corporate area and other sections of the island. Not much has been done since I spoke about it, but I want to advise those persons that they will be held responsible for any damage, loss of life, that those cranes and construction material might contribute to. It is not late to take them down. I am asking those who have up those cranes, right around here in New Kingston, you see them up, still up, making one final appeal. The other area of concern involves some of our homeless population. And I noticed that a lot of people is criticizing the government because there is one homeless man in the Harborview area who got personal attention from the Inspector of Poor and the Secretary of the Board of Supervision, who went out and engaged him in lengthy conversation, trying to convince him it is in his best interest to go to the shelters. And he refused. I saw in one of this morning's newspaper that one homeless man said he'd rather die on the street than going into the shelters. I want to make it clear that we have made all the necessary provisions to remove the homeless population. We have provided public transport to take them to the various facilities right across the center. And we will continue to do so as long as conditions allow us to do so. The question of the mandatory movements will be addressed. But let me say to Jamaica that I don't think we need an order to move from the areas that we know are vulnerable communities. Very encouraging, despite there are still persons in Port Royal who don't want to leave. The Member of Parliament, Philip Paulwell, called me last night to say that a significant number of persons in Port Royal have started to move or have left the community. And we will still be providing transportation in all the communities. And if you listen to what Evan said about the level of rainfall and the possibility of flooding, many of these communities will not survive this flooding. Again, I urge persons living in low-lying areas, areas that are vulnerable to flooding. It is not too late If you're having problems to move, call the ODPEM. The numbers are available. We will assist you if you are having problems in moving. I said yesterday, and I'm going to repeat it again. When this event comes, it is going to be impossible for us, after all the attempts that we have been making, to advise persons, begging persons to leave. It is going to be difficult for us to say to our first responders, go out and risk your lives now for someone who refused when it was conducive for them to leave. It might sound harsh, but it is the reality. And I don't believe many people in this country realize what is it we are facing. And the government continues to play its part, and nobody can deny that the government has not been proactive. And I want to say something which is pertinent in saying, based on the assessment that was done by the government after burial, the committee headed by former commissioner, who is now ambassador to the United States, a lot of findings. We look at the findings and the recommendations, and a lot of what came out of those recommendations are being implemented as I speak. So our shelters are up and running. Transportation to transport people to the shelters are available. The critical communities know themselves. Rocky Point in Clarendon, Portland Cottage, Bamboo River in St. Thomas, New Haven, Riverton City, Taylorlands. I can go on and name. These communities know themselves. They know the difficulties. And with a Category 4 hurricane, with the possibility of raising to a Category 5, there is nothing more we can do as a government but to beg and beseech persons to heed the warning. And if it will help, I will go on my knees. It is the collective response of all of us as Jamaicans that will take us through. This is just the beginning. And if anybody believes that being stubborn helps, well, that is their funeral. This is one bet you cannot win. You cannot bet against Melissa. Don't do it because you can't win. And I'm urging Jamaicans, we'll be back later on if needs be to give further updates. Minister Dixon have indicated that we'll be back tomorrow morning. And if possible, we can come back on Tuesday. We will be coming back. We will continue to speak to the country. But we can only speak as loud as you will allow us to speak. So, the shelters are up. The Ministry of Labor and Social Security have started to make arrangements to provide relief supplies for all our shelters. The shelter numbers are up, and I'm going to ask Ms. Edwards to come and to give some numbers that persons can make contact. It is important, ladies and gentlemen, Jamaicans, I beg of you, I urge you. And as a praying country, let us continue to pray for God's guidance and strength as we commence this journey that only God knows where it will end. Thank you.